Hello, and welcome to the Dave Isaac Podcast. I'm an artist, creator, human, and your host, Dave Isaac. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Hunter Scott as part of our ongoing series where we unravel the mysteries of an artist's team. Hunter is the founder and head of marketing and publicity of Trend, a boutique PR, branding, and social media firm where he works with notable clients including Magic the Giant, Congos, and Smoke Season, to name a few. Trend has helped their artists appear in major magazines including HuffPost, Billboard, LA Weekly, Alt Press, W Magazine, Los Angeles Magazine, as well as refine their brand and run social media strategies. 94% of whom stay on past the term of their initial campaign, which, if you are at all familiar with PR or social media agencies, is absolutely unheard of. I cannot stress enough how insane that number is. Hunter is also the chairman of the board of the Musicians Foundation and a frequent speaker and panelist for ASCAP, CSAC, the Grammy Museum, South by Southwest, MITEM, and many others. Hunter, I am extremely excited to have you today, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
So let's get right into it. Why does an artist need a PR, social media firm, and when should an artist consider adding them to their team?
Um, so a lot to unpack there. First of all, I think it's there are two different aspects of what we do. There's the PR division and the social media division. So when an artist needs is really depending on when you have new music. So press is news, news comes the word new. It's like one of the things I keep repeating over and over again. So you have to remember that you have to have new content. So when you are getting ready to release, and usually it's a couple of months before you're getting ready to release, start looking for a PR firm to represent you and get you out to press. That will include getting you reviews, special features, interviews about the music, in tastemaker publications, and just really getting you out in the media to get as many eyeballs as possible on the music itself. On social media, sometimes you will want to start the campaign prior to PR, simply so you can build up your numbers. You still want to have things to talk about. You still want to obviously have content to promote. Otherwise, you can't be just promoting an empty page. But at the same time, you want to ensure that you are um, starting with something, right? So people want to be a part of something that's already happening. We live in this crazy need to be validated world. So make sure that there is already something for people to talk about. So for that reason, a lot of people will start if you are just to get your numbers up a little bit, to get your brand looking really good for when it does come time to release your first piece of content.
That makes a lot of sense. I know it can be quite dicey trying to find a good reputable company. So, what should an artist look for when hiring a PR firm? How does it typically work? What should they expect as far as results, which I know is definitely there's sometimes a big gap between what artists think they want to expect
Yeah.
and what real results come. And then what are maybe some red flags that we can watch out for?
Um, sure. Again, lots of little points here. One is ask for client to staff ratio. If you're dealing with one person, they're working with 100 different clients, then that should just tell you they're not really going to have time to spend on you and your project. If you are a staff of, if you're fully staffed, if you're dealing with a firm and they're, dealing with, again, not with 100 different clients, just make sure that the client staff ratio, you're comfortable with it. So, if let's say we have a staff of 10 and we work with, 20, 25 clients at a time, that's a really, really good client staff ratio. Where again, if you're working with, independent publicists, so it's one person, they're taking on, 20, 30, 40 clients. They're probably just relying on a press release to be sent out like in a blast rather than giving you that personal approach that you're looking for. So that's one thing to ask for and to look for. The other thing is ask where they've gotten press for their clients. And more importantly, ask them where they can get you. Because the reason our retention is really high is because we always ask our clients what their goals are, and we only take them on if we feel like we can give them added value or help them achieve their goals. So um, with PR, there's never any guarantees, right? Because we're not the ones writing the articles, but we're pitching it to our contacts. So ensure that the person you're hiring has the connections, but also that their connections will be writing about you. For example, if you're going with a firm that has consistently gotten people in Billboard or Rolling Stone, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are ready for that piece. So that's a really important question to ask is where can you get me specifically and work through those goals from the beginning. So it's very clear on what the specific, measurable, achievable goals between the both of you are, between you and your team. Once you're able to communicate that on the same level, then you'll know that you found, the right team.
How long would you say it typically you sign that initial campaign for? How long does it maybe take? And obviously, it's going to vary from artist to artist to see results. And what's maybe a beginning sort of measure or goal if this is kind of your first campaign? This percentage increase of fans, or what can we kind of expect as far as results and in a way that is realistic?
Yeah, every campaign is obviously unique, so you're going to have different sets of challenges and different sets of results as a direct correlation to what you're trying to achieve. So, success to you may mean different things. So, it's not like across the board, there's like a 10, 20, 40, 100% increase in anything. It's because every campaign is going to be different. And there's going to be a focus on different things. For example, we do a lot of focus on lifestyle branding in addition to music based press. Lifestyle branding essentially means that we may focus on your hobbies or your interests, nonprofit affiliations, things of that nature as well. So you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, W Magazine, which is fashion, right? So it's not a music publication. It's because we had a client that did something in fashion. We got them in W Magazine as a result of that. So there's a lot of different aspects you're going to take there when it comes to that. And then in terms of the time specifically, some firms work on 3 months. I think that the industry standard is somewhere between 3 and 6 months to start. We're on the higher end of that, so we normally take people on for 6 months, and then it continues on a monthly basis. So it also means that we don't require you to sign the 6 months, but it does go month to month after. We will make exceptions depending on again what those goals are. But the reason we require that, and the reason our retention rate is really high when we do that, is because there has to be the mutual understanding that success doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It usually doesn't. So you're going to be looking at releasing multiple pieces of content. You're not going to blow up from your first release. You're not going to blow up from your first album most times. So it's really about ensuring that in 6 month time span, we have enough time to release multiple pieces of content, whether it be like a single EP or an album with a couple of music videos, whatever that may be. It has to be multiple pieces of content for us in order for you to see your growth. Because the reality is, you may not get all the press that you wanted in the first release because you're still building up your brand, but you want to get to that level. So we found that for us, as a firm, 6 months is really good for us for clients to see the added value that they've gotten and therefore not want to leave, which is kind of where we want it to be.
Touching on this and the client ratio is how do you actually go about selecting the artists that you work with? Because it seems like with you guys, it's definitely more a selective process. You don't just kind of take on any artist. So can you
Yeah.
give a little bit of insight into that, and maybe that'll help us think of what we need to start to do to prepare to find somebody like you guys.
For us, it's more about your music. Everything has to start with the music. Then we look for consistency between the music and the brand. So sometimes we'll decline a project just based on the socials not being there. Not that the social numbers have to be really high, but there has to be a connection with like, can we get it high enough? Or is this something where you're willing to work with? Are you willing to change? That's really important too, because we don't want to change who you are, but sometimes, yeah, you're gonna have to do like a new photo shoot to make things more consistent and cohesive with your brand and your music. So that's number two is the brand itself and the visual brand that is, and then number three would be just a personality test in a sense. I speak with every single client before we sign them. I want to make sure it's a good fit for us. I'd be able to pick up just on again, we've been in business for over 12 years now. It's fairly easy for me to pick up on any red flags when someone is all over the place, or if I get a sense of they're, not going to be happy no matter what, their expectations are insane, or there might be just a problematic client. That's on the negative side, and that's where we decline it. On the positive side, we want a partner in this. We want to know that when I want to get the sense of this is someone that when we get you an interview and we say we need this back by Friday afternoon, you're actually going to get it by that time. If we say, okay, you only have one single ready for us to start the campaign with, and that's fine, but in 6 weeks, I'm going to need another single so I can start pitching it while I'm doing follow up to the first single. I wanted to get a sense that you're on top of it. You're going to be able to get that for us. Because again, we don't want to take on clients unless we give them that added value, but that connects directly back to the content, making sure we get that. And then obviously we run every single client by our staff. Everybody has veto power. If it's someone that they really don't like, that you don't work with, we don't do it. That's kind of the really good thing about being a smaller, 10-person firm is that we get to say no to a lot of people, not to be jerks about it, but just be more selective because my thing has always been, and this goes back to, it's been years and years, I think, since you interned here, obviously, but it goes back to the philosophy of starting the firm has always been people have to be as happy and as excited on a Monday morning as they were Friday afternoon. If you're not excited coming to work, then it's not worth anything. You can do so many other things.
I absolutely love that approach. Actually, I wonder too. Is it so like then if you're looking to expand, this is kind of definitely out of left field, but I'm really interested in your approach because it seems so different than everything that's definitely like pushed on social media and stuff like, oh, sign up with our firm and we'll get you out. Like, did you kind of wait for the right employee then to then maybe look to
Yes.
expand, and so then you keep it small because like until we find the right person to add to our team, then we can start adding more clients for them? Or
Also, we've never had the need to be really like large. For us, we occupy half of our building on Hollywood Boulevard. We're doing really well. Everybody seems to be really happy. Our clients seem to be really happy. And that's a really big success for me. I've never had the inclination to be like a 100% firm. So it's not like I'm in a hurry to, get a bunch of people and get a bunch of clients and sign just anybody and kind of get there. I don't think working in entertainment, but especially music, you can be money hungry and have longevity. I think you have to work on passion first and kind of let everything else fall into place.
I feel like music is kind of the reverse of the typical sales pitch. You know, Apple is like, oh, we think differently and we go against the status quo. We just happen to sell computers. And they really pitch to what you believe in and
Yeah.
then have a product. And I feel like music is the exact opposite, where you already get the sense, you already get the connection. And then now when you decide like, hey, let me look them up on Spotify or whatever, it's like, now why should I actually care about you? Like I already have what I need from the song. And so then without that personal connection or without kind of a story there to back, there's not really much to get invested in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective for sure.
Maybe looking for somebody who's not quite ready, um, or not in the place or the budget to sign up with a firm, or what are the most important things for a new artist to focus on to start growing their audience on their own before they are ready to invest in a team, and where should they really focus their efforts?
Again, it goes back to what their goals are. So your goals should be the driving force of where you should be focusing your efforts because there's only so much time in the day. Obviously, don't stop creating music. But what you can do is maybe if you have an EP that's completed, release it as singles, and maybe do a bunch of singles before. Even if you want to release it as an EP, maybe if it's a 5 or 6 song EP, you can do 3 singles every 8 weeks or so, so every couple of months leading into the EP, which is going to give you, a lot of leeway before you have to go and spend time and money going back into a studio and recording more stuff. And therefore, you can focus on doing other things. And the other things include growing your social media numbers, grow getting press. Just research, Google where some of the artists that are similar to you are getting press, and look up the contact info of those journalists and contact them and see if they're really right about you. Those are some of the things that, when you don't have a professional doing it for you, because you can't afford to hire them, there's still a lot of things that you can be doing on your own. Some of my favorite clients are actually ones that have tried doing it on their own because they have an appreciation for it. So they know what it takes, they know how difficult it could be, and how time consuming it is. So I love it when people try first on their own and then they come to us.
If they don't have any understanding of what you guys actually do, it makes sense that their expectations then may be way off as to what can actually happen.
Yeah.
So I see tons and tons of ads popping up in my feed promoting an artist's new release or video. And to be honest, I usually just scroll right on by. I know social media ads can be extremely effective for reaching a very specific demographic. However, eyeballs don't often mean interest. So, what works? What doesn't? How can artists ensure that they're getting the most out of their ad dollars?
A/B testing. So if you're really good at ads, well, actually, that's the suck to say you have to be good at ads because you don't have to be, but you're going to have to learn along the way. So use the Facebook's ads manager rather than just boosting. Just go to directly to facebook.com/ads to run your ads rather than, again, just clicking the boost button. You're going to get more options that way. And do what's called A/B testing, which is run two ads that are very similar, but you're changing one thing. So sometimes you're going to be changing the target audience, sometimes you're going to be changing the messaging, sometimes you're going to be changing, it could be one word or it could be the photo, just to kind of see how it resonates and figure out how you can get that dollar amount down while also increasing where people have done with it. So you can get a little more complicated and do tracking links. So you'll know that people specifically who clicked on, because I'll back up a little bit, not to confuse people. So Facebook will tell you how many people clicked on a specific ad, but you don't necessarily know after that what they did, if they subscribed, if they purchased anything, right? All that kind of stuff. But you can use different tracking links to kind of keep track of people and see what that next step looks like with unique URLs, what that actually translated into. And that will teach you how to, run your ads and what to spend money on. I will say though, you can spend a lot of money on specifically what's called the young adult demographic in the US. You can spend, one, two, sometimes $250 per click. So obviously targeting, 18 to 24-year-olds in Los Angeles on Instagram at $2 a click to send them to your Spotify playlist where they're going to be listening to a song that's going to pay you 0.005 cents, it does not make sense. So you have to figure out what are the things that do make sense and go from there.
Yeah, I've seen recently somebody talking about how, I mean, they were saying specifically like you shouldn't even be running ads unless you have like 4 or 5 songs up already. Because if somebody happens to click on it and then they get there, and if you only have one, then it's kind of like, oh, like, well, when's the next one coming out? Do they have any more? And then also, just in a practical sense, is you could get, 4 or 5 plays versus one on those clicks. I'm also just kind of interested in like, is there maybe specific formats that kind of work better than others? Because usually it's just kind of somebody playing, or sometimes maybe a clip of the music video, and it's very much just like, hey, check out my album. And I feel like those don't really necessarily grab as much attention, or whereas things are kind of in that meme sort of format where they have like kind of a clickbaity title and then like um, subtitles and stuff like that. Have you seen maybe some types of formats on the visual side or things like that have worked better than just saying like, hey, check out my album?
In general, video just works better. And obviously, if you have like a snippet of the song where you can show people the music and then they're like, oh, this sounds amazing, they're going to click through, that's going to be really good.
Okay, switching gears a little bit, I'm excited to talk about this is TikTok, which is
Okay.
absolutely exploding, as we know, and there's massive organic reach on there right now. So, are you currently integrating TikTok into your strategy? If so, how are you integrating it into your campaigns? Does doing things like jumping on trends or kind of remixing ideas that are already out cheapen an artist's brand? And does that even matter if you start to get attention and build an audience through it?
Um, we are just now integrating TikTok. We were a little bit late to the party on that one, I will admit. It's one of those cases where I have to look at myself and go, wow, I am getting older because I'm behind on that particular thing. And it took an intern to really get us to, even though people were asking us about it for a while, it really just took an intern to push us in that direction. So yeah, we are integrating in that. In terms of brand, I mean, you have to find the right balance between what's on brand with you as well as what creates engagement. And remember that TikTok at the end of the day is skews very young. So it may not be for everyone. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone. It really just depends on what is like who your fans are and are they on TikTok? And does that translate to something that's going to help you, blow up there that will then kind of trickle into other avenues to help you out with?
Lastly, for our final question, what are some actions or factors that you've seen that make the most impact when it comes to an artist connecting and growing a passionate and dedicated fan base?
Number one, be authentic. You can't, fake it. It has to be, especially when you're talking about lifestyle branding, um, just be real. I think at the end of the day, you have to be yourself and hope that that connects. It doesn't always, but also doesn't mean that you should, become this different person. It has to make sense because people see through that, even online. Have really good content. It starts with music. It trickles to what your photos look like, how you interact, how you craft your posts, like everything else. You're putting it out there in the world, so put some thought into it, but it starts with the music. You could have the best publicist with the best photos and the best, biggest marketing budget and advertising budget. Music sucks. It's not going to resonate with people. It's not going to trickle to the rest of their catalog. It's just going to start and end there, and that's kind of where it is. So I would focus on those three things more than anything. To have, oh, and obviously focus on having new content. So going back to what we were saying before, it's all about people's attention spans are really short these days. So, you ready to release every, probably couple months. Some clients are doing less than that too, but especially if you're putting for press, 6 to 8 weeks is good. That to push new content out there and grow your fan base.
Meaning like music or a video
Yeah,
or even just like posting. How often do you think you should be posting? Just
so quality over quantity. I'd rather you be
okay.
posting. I think most of our clients are like doing posts probably 4 or 5 days a week, but then Insta stories they're doing more often than that, and Facebook they're probably doing less.
Yeah, Facebook seems to have kind of fallen off a little bit. It's Instagram. It seems like there's a huge push towards TikTok now. Like I
There is
feel
a
like
huge
it's
push towards TikTok.
just
Yes.
growing way faster than I feel like kind of the shift. There was Facebook, and then the shift to Instagram took like a long time, and now I feel like the shift to TikTok is almost going to be like half as long. It's crazy what's
Well,
going
don't
on right
you're
now.
I mean, there's Twitter alongside Facebook.
It's true,
There was Snapchat in between. That
of
kind
course.
of fell off as well. So I think that's one of the reasons we were kind of wary of it, is because of Snapchat beforehand that didn't turn out to be like a great marketing tool for musicians like people thought it would be. And don't forget TikTok was Musically. It was something that will literally if you're 13, it was good for, and then everybody else was like, nope, that's it was foolish to them. And then I think some of those kids grew up a little bit and people got more clever and they rebranded, and just like everything kind of became this perfect storm where now it is bigger than everybody thought, which is great. I love new things, and I love also being able to see that the power is not under just one roof, because that's not very good for democracy, is it?
To touch on it a little bit again, because I've heard this time and time again, is obviously it all starts with the music and then authenticity. How can we convey that authenticity in a way that translates? Because, you know, obviously it takes a lot of work to discover who you are, to be able to communicate that, but sometimes things don't always translate in the way that you maybe think they do. So, you have any tips on being able to actually convey that authenticity in a way that can translate in these social platforms and these marketing tools?
Yeah, I mean, have if you, a team will tell you, and if you don't have that team, find people that are not super close friends that are because your close friends might be afraid to tell you the truth. So find people that won't care, go on an online forum, but not one where people are just mean to be mean, because then you're getting the opposite effect. You have to find kind of the middle of the ground people that you can rely on and kind of just get an average of what do you think of when you hear this, or what do you think about this message, or what do you think about this post. You don't have to do it for every single post, just to kind of get you an idea if you're like in the ballpark, if it resonates with people. Um, it's a tough one for sure because we always have this verbal contract with our clients that we are the people who are going to tell you what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear. So we look at everything and we'll go, okay, this is not timely, this is tone deaf, or this is really good. And let's push, like, we have some clients that we're pushing to release more and more content now because it's very timely with everything going on. But yeah, and then, obviously, with the events of the last couple of weeks of the protests of Black Lives Matter, we recommended for some clients to push the releases, as in to not release,
To wait,
um,
yeah.
to wait, and that's not because we thought it would get lost in the mix. It's just to be respectful, and that goes back to and every single one agreed. Um, so you have to be respectful of the times as well, and just
And
kind of
just conscious
know,
of
conscious
what's
of
going
exactly
on.
of your surroundings, because that goes back to you just being authentically someone that people can relate to and therefore want to connect with on a personal level.
I mean, I was literally just talking about that with my roommate because, we started trying to get our gear going and start posting stuff. And then all this happened. And honestly, even with this podcast, now that I'm recording it and I got a couple in the bag and I was getting ready for release and this stuff happened, I'm like, hey, I really don't think this is the right time. And you're scrolling through your feed, you see all these things and you see somebody being like, hey, come check me out. It doesn't feel, definitely doesn't feel like the right time.
Yeah,
Uh, Well, I cannot thank you enough for your time, for your insights. I really appreciate the phone call. I'm glad you're doing so well.
thank you.
Um, and honestly, just not that it's even changed from when we talked before, but your approach to the music and putting this level of authenticity. I think there's a lot of integrity in what you're doing in the way that you've communicated with it today, and I think that's something that's incredibly rare um, within the entertainment industry, and then honestly even just kind of in life and social media and stuff like that today. So I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing and for taking the time to be on my show.
Thank you. My pleasure. Be safe.
Yeah, you too.